I get to welcome to the stage my good friend, Sam Kass. Sam is a partner at Acre Venture Partners, the former senior policy advisor for nutrition in the Obama administration, and an author whose new book, The Last Supper, How to Overcome the Coming Food Crisis, is coming out next month. Please give him a round of applause. Sam Kass.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, I've been looking.
Okay?
Yeah.
You doing all right?
Yeah. I have been looking forward to this conversation all week, my friend.
Me
and
too.
All I can say is, WTF.
We're going to title this talk WTF.
Dude, where are we? Where are we with everything?
Oh, that's a big question.
Well, let's start with
yeah.
what we've been seeing with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Give me your thoughts.
All right. So I'm going to do my best and just not have this be a long list strain of profanity. Look, I think I have a lot of dear friends who are supporters or have been supporters of RFK.
Yeah.
And they are because they buy into the critique of what's wrong. And it's a critique that has long been uttered. We basically said the same critique when we were in the White House, and people have been saying it for decades. But it's largely one that has a lot of truth in. I don't agree with everything he says, but I think most of it is right.
Right.
And that's intoxicating coming from now the head of HHS, because we want people who understand the problems to be in the positions of power. It all falls apart really fast when you get to the parts of what are actually the root causes of those problems and what are the solutions. I genuinely think that he is the greatest threat to public health the country's ever faced. And he is doing all of us a great disservice by kind of laundering this administration, by particularly for key constituents like suburban moms and young families with young kids who are worried about now vaccinating their children or that there's some poison in their food. He's drawn support to a whole set of policies that are destroying our ability to ensure that we have a healthcare system that is protecting the well-being of kids. They're absolutely gutting every effort around mitigating the worst of climate change across the entire government, and which is, I would argue, the biggest threat to public health that the world faces. I don't think you can overstate the threat.
Yeah.
And when you start to get into some of the specifics, you're going to have to cut me off because I will talk for literally the whole other 15 minutes.
Go.
I mean, you start to talk, okay, let's just stick with food for a second. We got a lot of challenges. And, two of the biggest things they focus on so far, food dyes. Let's just start with food dyes. I'm not a champion of food dyes. I'm happy to see them go. But Fruit Loops with food dyes or not food dyes is still not something you should be feeding your kids. And if we ate non-food dyed Fruit Loops, we're not going to be any healthier.
Yeah.
There is no evidence that food dyes are causing any negative health consequence. The reason they haven't banned it is because you have to prove harm to revoke an approval. You cannot do that. So that's why they had done a voluntary approach, and lo and behold, they all came running to do it. Why? Because it doesn't matter to them either.
Yeah.
It's irrelevant. Yeah. That's why they all lined up to sort of really quickly pull them out. Seed oils. Guys, seed oils. Seed oil playbook is exactly the playbook for all the stuff they're doing. Pull one study that casts some doubt somewhere, even lightly, which flies in the face of hundreds, if not thousands, of other studies that have been done, scare people, and then lo and behold, the Means family or the Food Babe has some product they want to sell you that magically solves that problem for the cheap price of $79.99. And it's the playbook that they're running.
Yeah.
And it's super dangerous. It's so insane that this man went to a fast food restaurant to promote a cheeseburger and French fries fried in beef tallow as something that was healthy.
Yeah.
So it's hard to overstate this. So I actually think from a food side, the best case right now is that there's not a lot of damage. The worst case, like if you eat a bunch of saturated fat, like, and everybody starts eating like that, that is terrible for public health. That's settled science. But then you start getting into the vaccines and the significant rise in lack of confidence in vaccines, the absolute attack on science across the board, on truth.
Right.
It's hard to overstate the implications of that for how we govern ourselves and make decisions going forward. And now it's just like spiraling into the bizarre. But I think the bizarre has something behind it. The Tylenol thing this week was so insidious, and just like, you don't know whether to laugh or cry. I mean, the president can't even say the word. He says we get kids 80 vaccines. It's like a horse. Did you see that he said that? And here we are now scaring moms and giving formal guidance in the most vulnerable, like stressful time in any person's life, especially for the mom, but as a dad, trust me, that's also like stressful because you don't want to hurt your baby, to cast doubt without any basis in science on this correlation. And Kennedy, in the justification for this policy, said that 40 to 70% of moms of autistic children think that it was from vaccines. Therefore, we should ban Tylenol. It doesn't make any sense.
No.
But I think the one last thing I'll say, and then I'll pause, and you can point me in whatever direction. But I'm happy to spend the next 10 minutes continuing to talk about this subject.
Me too.
I hope we do. I don't want to lead the questioner, but I just did. Is this man, you have to remember, he's a class action lawyer. He made his money suing people. It's a business. When he got questioned in his confirmation hearing, would he commit to not profiting from any policy that he implemented while at HHS from a class action lawsuit, he refused. What happened on this week around Tylenol was nothing else than to set that class of drugs up for suit. There have been class action suits attempted on Tylenol before. They failed because there's no evidence. But now that the government takes an official position, that's enough to bring it. The same thing is happening on vaccines. That's why they're trying to revoke there's policies that protect vaccine makers from class action suits. Because it's in the public interest to maintain herd immunity, which we're now starting to lose on things like measles. That's what this is about in the end, I think. And I think we'll start to see a ton of activity there because there's simply no justification to do in the science to do anything that's happening right now.
Yeah. You mentioned how RFK Jr. is intoxicating to some of the people that we know, some of our friends who care deeply about these issues. And, I wonder how we maybe reconcile that when the attacks over, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program and everything, small farmers, et cetera, all the cuts at USDA, all the firings, et cetera, the dismantling of USAID, how do we reconcile all of that? How do our friends who are intoxicated reconcile that in their heads?
You're going to have to ask them because I don't think it's really possible. But I will say to all my friends, and some of you might be here, who have been supporters. First of all, I love you. We want you back.
You joined a cult. Call your dad.
Listen. Actually, I think it actually really is important to give people who had hope in him and wanted to support somebody who was bringing these issues the sort of spotlight that it deserved. You got to give him credit for that. I'm actually empathetic. I get why there's a predisposition to want to support him, even if you're willing to take on all the rest of like the attack on democracy and authoritarian regime, threats that were happening even during the campaign and now are playing out. Like, I'm still empathetic, and I get why people want to go that way. But the fever has to break now.
Sure.
This is way too serious. Every policy they've enacted at HHS and at USDA has undermined in dramatic ways our ability to make sure, especially the most vulnerable among us, can be healthy. The massive cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, The SNAP, all the work on SNAP is a guise to cut SNAP. It is not to make it healthier. Anybody who says otherwise, they don't know what they're talking about. This is an attempt that has been ongoing and we fought this fight so many times, is to just whittle away SNAP benefits. If you want to put restrictions on SNAP, which, by the way, I would be supportive of in only this instance if you're raising the total benefit and meaningfully. Everybody should go try to live on SNAP for a week and then tell me, should we restrict it without giving more money? The way it's calculated, it's like you're supposed to eat like 50 servings of beans a week, right? It's insane. The program people need more money to eat. If you want them to eat healthier, they need more money in their pocket to do so.
Absolutely.
So at every turn, the reality of what's happened does not match, the critique.
Right,
And at this point, any support for him, any caveating, which I hear so many, and heroes of mine who've probably been here this week, sort of probably saying the same thing. Well, I like this part, but no. All of it cannot be supported because it's all part of a bigger attack on truth, on science, on democracy, on poor people, on people of color, on farmers.
Yep.
Go talk to a farmer right now. They are suffering.
Crisis.
They don't have people to farm. The inputs are through the roof. The tariffs are closing markets. Like, it's an assault across the entire value chain. And when you caveat it, being like, well, I don't like this other stuff, but these two things, then you're whitewashing the whole thing.
Yeah.
This must be and this for me, it's not a partisan thing. Like, if they were doing good stuff, I would have to swallow my pride and say, well, the Republicans were the ones who did it. And I would have, and I was prepared to.
Right.
But that's not what this is, and it can't just be like I'm going to say the good things and the bad things. No, right now this is part of the most existential threat to democracy and to health that we're going to face, I hope, in my lifetime, and I hope we're able to overcome it. Thank you.
Yeah, the assault on poor people, the assault on science, what keeps me going is that I know there is a day after, right? Whether it's a new Republican administration or the Democrats or, the Libertarians, whoever is in power, I'm thinking about, 3.5 years from now, hopefully, what do we do then? How do we reinvigorate, the truth? How do we reinstill a belief in science-based evidence?
Well, I think I think we got phases, right? We got about a year to the midterms. So right now we just have to try to protect what we can. There was a lot of momentum. We built a lot of good things. We made a lot of progress. It's all being, assaulted and damaged just severely. Some nonprofits are going to go away. A bunch of companies who are doing good work aren't going to make it. Funding is drying up. The big businesses who they're trying to serve aren't spending money on it because they don't feel any pressure to. So there's real damage being done. And I don't want to, pretend like it's not serious. But, there's a lot that can weather the storm. And so I think the key is keeping it alive and helping to support it through this next period. And there's this next year, and then the most important thing for us to do is vote and make sure everybody you know and a bunch of people you don't know vote. This has to stop in the midterms. That will be like the break, or at least a break, at least from the congressional side. And Congress can start to help gum up the wheels and slow things down a little bit.
Sure.
But the damage will continue for 2 more years after that, and then the question is going to become what happens to the next general. And if we don't have somebody in position of power, I don't agree with you, party agnostic, although there's only, unfortunately, one party who believes right now that climate change is even a real thing, we just have to win that election.
Yeah.
Or at least somebody's got to be in there who believes in science and believes in trying to put in policies that are going to help us mitigate the worst of what we're facing. And if we don't, then it gets dark.
Yeah.
But between now and then, there's a lot of opportunity to get ready for a moment that we can make tremendous amount of progress.
Yeah.
And that's how it works, right? It swings back and forth. And we should be preparing ourselves now that when there's some tailwinds that come, like we have wings that are ready to fly. And that means, starting to organize, starting to start new groups, or joining one that's struggling that needs some help.
Yeah.
Building that infrastructure, those tools and technologies that we need. Everybody in their different parts of the ecosystem has a role to play. And then there will be a time as things, and I think sadly what's going to happen is that things are going to keep getting worse. we're going to see more disruptions in food. You know, a lot of what, here comes a shameless plug for the book. A lot of what my book talks about is sort of how food system is already grappling with and being dramatically impacted by climate in ways that I don't think we've really grappled with. And so people are going to start to see that more and more. And I think we'll get deeper into the culture, the sense that, wow, we really do have to do something about whatever you call it, climate change or changing weather, whatever words, you know, resonate. I think there will be a chance to make a lot more progress coming out of this.
Yeah, and I don't want to Pollyanna this, but I do think there is an opportunity for us as a movement to really come together in a bigger way than we have. And, you know, what we've been talking about this week, Sam, is like, you know, everyone in this room is here because they care about the climate crisis. Who we need in this room is people who don't understand why the climate crisis is happening or how it affects our food and agriculture systems. And I wonder what your advice is to actually, you know, speaking to people who we don't agree with and actually listening to them as well, because I think it has to be this sort of two-way street, because I didn't understand that the Maha moms were going to be so powerful, right? And I didn't listen to them. I brushed it off, and I really should have listened.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and this is true across the board. I mean, the title of the book comes from a meal that I first did in Paris at COP21, or when they were doing the big accords, because nobody back then at all was talking about food. It, like, literally was never mentioned in those COP and climate circles. And so it was an attempt to try to be like, first of all, like, hey, over here, guys, us too. But also help to give the environmental movement a language to connect on an emotional level with a much broader swath of society, because nobody knows what 2 degrees means.
Right.
1.5. I always joke, like, as a kid from Chicago, like, warming it up 2 degrees sounds like a great thing to do. Like, we should, that's good, right? You know? Like, the words climate change are meaningless. But when you start understanding that, you know, coffee, wine, and chocolate are being devastated right now, and our kids and grandkids might not have any. Like, there was no real cava coming out of Spain last year. Cocoa prices are up 200% year over year because of climate. All of a sudden, somebody who doesn't care about climate change, who just loves coffee or chocolate, might be like, oh, shit, like, maybe we should do something about that. Because it connects with their lives. It gives people a reason to care. And it's not political.
Right.
And so the emotional connection has been the part I think has really been missing. So food is the way. And so I think we should start speaking to people's hearts more than their minds.
Yeah.
And leading with love and empathy. And that's hard right now because, like, I'm angry. I'm angry at all people who've enabled this.
Yeah.
But we have to work through that, because if we're just yelling, we're not gonna bring anybody over. And using ways, touching the things that people care about, and that letting that lead is, I think, the way in. And it's hard. It's hard work, but I think it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, it is hard work. I think I've learned this year, it's okay to let myself mourn, but that, you know, your advice about leading with love and empathy is the way forward. It's okay to be, like, you know, angry and sad, but, like, we got to think about what's next.
Yeah, we have to.
When does the book come out?
October 7th. You can pre-order it on those little cards there. And, you know, it's I'll just be honest and say the book is like 6 years late, and God bless my editor, Francis Lamb, for sticking with me and the whole team. But I'm sort of happy I'm late, because I think the timing is pretty good right now. So hopefully can get the word out about what we need to do to get ourselves out of this problem.
Congratulations. Thanks for ending Climate Week with me.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.